Well, it always seems like when we don't have anything to talk about, a light turns on, something gets talked about, rumor circulates, something that pulls us back in. It's been a couple weeks since we've been here, but we feel good to be back. So, with that being said, welcome back to another episode of the Dead Man's Mic, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. And if you're listening to this right now, we are officially 4 months outside of the fog. 4 months out today. 4 months out. Craig, what's up, man? How you feeling?
We 4 months out from the fog, like you said. I'm just ready to get the ball rolling. Uh, it's pretty dead within this period of time, but you know, with everything, within a dead period comes a few things sprinkled in here and there. So that's what we pretty much here to talk about with you guys. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's definitely hop right into it. A lot to unpack tonight. Before our main topic of conversation, um, a few things have kind of been circulating in the HHN world outside of announcements. We've had a lot of construction updates, but the main thing that I want to hit on, and Craig, you can really take us down the rabbit hole of this, but everything going on with WWE and the Wyatt Six. I think things were released. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, y'all. I don't pay attention to wrestling as heavily, but it sounds like things are released, and it was kind of cool to see the community reminisce on what that house was and how it impacted all of us. It even impacted me, and I didn't necessarily know much about it. If you go check out some older episodes, you can definitely hear me dropping my insight on that. But Craig, what did you think about all this? And to further that, what did you think about all of the tributes that people were giving toward the Wyatt Six?
So, if so many of you might not know the YS6. Everybody within the stable got their release from their WWE contracts. Unfortunately, that was that's what we call in the wrestling world um, post mania cuts, and this is no this is no and it isn't anything new in terms of anything. It happens every year, and it's very unfortunate that some of the talents got to get released from their contracts. But and the YS6 was just one of those unfortunate casualties. And I'm really and like in hindsight, I really do appreciate the fact that the YS6 were able to get involved with Halloween Horror Nights and everything like that while they were under contract, and how they were able to get that opportunity to you know um, express themselves and uh, get us into the minds of what they had going on, and how they were able to collaborate with Mike Aiello and the crew, and how it was a passion, and how much of a passion project it was for the HHN family in Orlando specifically, because they're big wrestling fans too. And the different tributes to them and everything was really heartfelt, and I'm sure they saw it, and I'm sure they're very appreciative, because now um speaking now, like presently speaking, it's almost bittersweet, because of that, because of they got released, and it's like now we can look back and share fond memories about the YS6 and the house. And now, me as a wrestling fan, and me and YS6 was like the number one house for me this past year. And it's just like, man, it's like, now it really hits me, and it's like bittersweet. Um, Especially considering the series of unfortunate events that has occurred. So um, I would now. Now I want to go through the house all over again. Now I'm gonna be watching YouTube videos and walkthroughs of the horrors of the YS6. So, you know,
Yeah,
they
man. I When I saw everything, I definitely had to reach out to you and kind of get some more information on what was going on because I saw everybody saying how heartbroken they were and everything. And I was like, what the fuck happened? Like everything's been chill. Like this just came out of nowhere. But then once you explained everything, that made total sense. But yeah, man, just to kind of piggyback off what you said, man, the Wyatt Six really built another community within the community last season. Like that, there were a lot of people who just truly didn't care for it. And there were a lot of people who were all about it. And then there were people like me who had no idea what to expect. But by the end, we were also about it, you know. But the WWE community, they came out and supported that house more than anything, and it was just really cool to see that. So I really do hate that everything happened with the Wyatt Six and them being cut post event, but that's definitely what's going on there. So if you have any tribute or any love you want to show to the Wyatt Six, definitely show it up. That was definitely a win for Horror Nights for sure. We've talked about it plenty of times, but definitely still a win. Now, speaking of that, and it being a house that was announced a little bit later in the summer, it kind of takes us into some more things that we need to talk about, and that is when is our next announcement coming? What do we think? We will be at Spooky Empire at the end of the month. Anybody's at Spooky Empire, we love to hang out and meet you guys. But if not, that's kind of what we're banking on. We think that there may or may not be a panel there. We think that we may or may not get an announcement. Spooky Empire is like making people wait long as shit to drop the panel schedule. We know nothing. We've heard nothing. We know nothing. But we got an announcement in March, and we kind of feel like May is another good time to drop another one. And if you look at the history of the different rollouts for house announcements, we've gotten one in May, and then in June, I mean, like it starts rolling for real. So we're definitely going into that time. So, I mean, that's kind of what I think, Craig. I don't know how you feel, but I'm definitely thinking that either Spooky Empire or if not Spooky Empire, the month of May should definitely bring us our next house announcement.
so in terms of another house announcement, I do think like you were saying about Spooky Empire, I do think we'll get a house announcement during Spooky Empire. And I think the reason why they haven't dropped like a schedule for Spooky Empire because I honestly believe at this point, excuse me, I honestly believe at this point that it's going to be very HHN heavy, considering that it's a big, considering that it's a really huge anniversary year, as you all know. So maybe the reason why they haven't dropped the schedule is because maybe it gives too many things away in terms of HHN. I'm not sure, but that's what I'm collecting, and that's what I'm getting because of this. Because a con doesn't really, they don't really wait this soon to drop anything, in terms of a schedule at least. And the fact that they didn't drop a schedule, it's very telling to me. So that's just what I think, and I honestly think that, like you said, they'll hit the ground running really hard in June, but May should start to see like like the trend, like the recent trend of announcements that we've been getting over the past few years. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm getting.
Yeah, man, I can definitely see that happening. Um, Especially like we said, after May, if nothing happens in May, June is gonna be almost like a powder keg. Like once it blows, it's gonna go all summer. So, we're definitely excited about that, looking forward to it. But also I feel like we had a whole lot of rumors and speculation that really pushed that Jack and Oddfellow was what we were gonna get as that first house announcement. And then when people showed up in the panel room and we had all this memorabilia on stage and different setups that portrayed to Jack and Oddfellow or to the Infernal Carnival of Nightmares and things like that, it just kind of made sense. Now the real question is, from the Jack and Odd Fellow announcement, where do we go next? Out of all the rumors that we've had, all the rumors have been kind of stagnant right now. We haven't really been seeing any too many influx of anything. We haven't really been seeing a lot of differences. But the real question is, where exactly do we go from there? Now, my thought would be that we go an IP route, and that we would get, like your centers or something big to really, really push this shit up a notch, right? Like it's already up there, but if we get that, let's push it up even higher. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking. But we also could get an original. I mean, come on, bro. We got El Artista last time at Spooky Empire, and that was like a banger announcement. It went crazy.
I mean, for all I know, we could we could go the originals route and Spooky Empire, but again, I have a feeling that there's gonna be something huge. Like it could be a big IP like Sinners. I honestly believe if they announce Sinners, like that will break the internet. I ain't even gonna lie to you, but again, I think that's why I honestly think that's why they haven't, dropped anything when it comes to, the scheduling and like, anything being announced or like even like the panel itself because I just think that what they have cooked up and what they have in store for us is gonna be truly something special. I mean, either way, I'm looking forward to it. But the fact that they're like waiting this long just to give us any details and give us any schedule in terms of Spooky Empire is kind of like it's like dude, like what's truly going on here? It's now it's piquing my interest. You know, not gonna hold you, but
Not
it's just
only
it's just the way the series of events is happening.
and not only that, but Hallow Scream could also tap in because they are a sponsor of Spooky Empire, and they
That's very
normally
true.
tend to roll out throughout the summer as well. And you really don't get much from them in the springtime, but definitely in the summer. I could definitely see Hallow Scream trying to hop in there a little bit and give us something. So that would also be really cool to get something from Hallow Scream.
I think I like you said. I think that would work out great. In terms of Hallow Scream being a sponsor of Spooky Empire. I think I honestly think all of the Halloween, all of the major Halloween events around the country, or at least like Orlando specifically, would have things announced like that in that aspect. So I would definitely be keeping my eye out and be keeping my be looking in my peripheral about things like that, especially uh you know obviously HHN, but Hollow Scream, um and things like that. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man, it's definitely exciting to see, what's going to happen with that. We're just really excited to be a part of Spooky Empire. It's one that we've always kind of wanted to hit, and it just never, made sense or would add up on our schedule to where we'd be able to do it. So this year we're able to make it happen. So we can't wait to get down there. And kind of brings us to our next thing, which this doesn't necessarily have to do with horror nights, but there's some other things going on around the resort that we do want to talk about. And we told you guys we're going to bring the theme park updates too. Let's put it this way: plot of land has been purchased by Universal. Permits were filed a few weeks ago. Construction has now begun, or maybe not construction, but demolition, getting rid of trees and brush and a lot of things on that plot of land. That plot of land is close to Epic Universe. Also, construction has started in the Lost Continent in Islands of Adventure. We still do not have announcements on that or what that may be. But is this the beginning of City Walk South, close to Epic Universe? And shout out to Dev because he did a video on this and it made us want to talk about it. But we've always said that around Epic Universe, we're gonna need something else to pull people in. It's just If you're not in the park, there's just nothing there. If you're not staying at Stella Nova or Terra Luna, there's nothing there, right? So you gotta have something else to go inside with the three hotels to go with that park, Helios Grand. I did mention that earlier, or another hotel if the park is full of numbers. But to me, I just feel like a City Walk South would be huge for that area because now you put that in there, you have something for the entire family to do. You even have something for the people that may not want to pay for that Epic Universe ticket.
I mean, City Walk South. This is something that you've been going hard about. Ever since
I've been
ever
pushing.
ever ever since we've been talking about Epic Universe. Period. You've been like, "Hey, City Walk South is the way to go." I'm telling you. And so I
Need
was like, you know what? I ain't even mad at you. Like it's not out. It was never really out the realm of possibilities when it came to Epic Universe because that Epic Universe is on a whole. It's like 10 or 15 minutes from from the original Universal property. So it's like you need kind of like a segue into that, and City Walk South is the way to go besides having a fourth gate which is going to connect the both parks and Epic Universe, and that fourth gate which is going to be the City Walk South, and that's going to create a bigger resort, and
more
you
clothes,
know
more
and not even mentioning the fact that they bought all that land of Old I Drive, and that's going to create a whole bigger transportation system and more hotels and stuff like that too. So hey,
hey,
it,
the
Universal's cooking up.
the future is bright. That's that. The future is bright because the other thing I literally just thought about this sitting right here as we're talking about it. The original City Walk is cinema, right? Like we love the original City Walk. It is Universal Orlando Resort to us. Like it would feel weird if it wasn't there. But you buy all this land closer to Epic. You buy all this land up I Drive. Does this become the true competition to a Disney Springs? You see what I'm saying? Because City Walk is one thing, but this could be more of a complex type of idea should they decide to go that route. So this could be something really big, man. I'm definitely excited to see what happens. And we love Disney Springs, and it's still downtown Disney over here. That
Right,
all
exactly.
day long, all day long.
All day.
But if you don't see Universal cooking up to stay relevant, like it's happening right before our eyes. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Excited about it. We'll see what happens because it could be another resort, but I'm not going to be mad at another resort. We're going to go stay in it. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't, it don't matter.
Yeah. Hey, check another one off the box.
Check another one off the box, man. Like, we're going to do that regardless. But see, I mentioned Disney because we got to talk about something going on over there too. Because if anyone dropped today, it was Disney. Because the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party dates dropped this morning. And I feel
They
like,
did. They did.
and I really feel like you and I have never really had a chance to talk about Not So Scary on this platform because our platform is so HHN driven, but Not So Scary is a vibe. Like, if for anybody who hasn't checked it out, or maybe if you haven't looked at any YouTube videos about it, Not So Scary is a vibe, and you absolutely should go check it out. It's not HHN, it's not supposed to be, and they know it's not supposed to be. But you go out there and really feel the magic that you're supposed to feel at Disney, and you just go out there and be a kid, you know what I'm saying? And get as much candy as you can, wear your costume. Man, come on, bro. Not So Scary is a vibe.
Hey, not so scary. It's always a good time when there are um when there are basically all inclusive things to do, and It doesn't give off like the scary vibes of HHN, like you were saying, Nick. Like it's definitely its own vibe and its own entity. They do sell out fast, and I'm pretty sure, um, I'm pretty sure what's the I mean, they dropped the dates, but once them tickets gonna sell, you if you not there on that site as like on your mouse on your computer clicking, as soon as they drop, you might as well just not even try because
It's gone.
those will like those. I think honestly, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. They dare I say they sell faster than the Christmas party.
I think they do. I think Not So Scary sells out faster than a Christmas party, faster than Jollywood nights, all that.
Yep.
I think Not So Scary blows it out of the water
Listen,
every time.
because
Every
every single time, I the fans go crazy, especially the Disney adults, and we already know about that.
because we're the ones buying the tickets for real. If you think about it, that event is for the adults for sure. Just to go around and really experience that Halloween nostalgia and to experience in the Magic Kingdom. Like there's just nothing like it. And yeah, if you aren't online when those tickets go on sale, because when they say select nights, they are very, very, very strict and serious about the select nights. Like you'll get none of that if you're out there trying to be out there on a night where it's not going on. They are very selective about that. And the tickets really do go fast, but it's because the event is just that much fun. So definitely
Very
stay
true.
stay tapped in with that if you want to go to Not So Scary. The dates drop today. I'm not sure if the tickets drop today along with the dates.
No, I think it was just the dates.
Okay, so y'all got time. That's what I'm saying. You definitely have time if you know if the tickets haven't gone on sale. Now, Craig, you ready for the main event, the main conversation for tonight? We got done with all of our updates, our rumors, our everything going on around the resort.
Oh, we got what we got.
This is something that we've been wanting to talk about for a while, and you really have to think about it because it's not a versus. It's not a versus, but this is more of a like both of these people's pin game is insane when they're drawing up these houses. We got to talk about Murdy and Aiello. We got to talk about the approach that both of them take toward the houses that they create. We got to talk about the difference. How we've been through enough houses. We can probably go through one and be like, oh yeah, this has got Aiello all over it, or oh yeah, this is Murdy and his crew. You know what I'm saying? I, both of them are extremely talented. And I know that there are more people than just these two that work on these houses, and we want to make sure that we give those flowers to everybody. But these two are your executive creators here, and their approach is just so different. I really feel like that's why there's a vibe change when you go to LA from Orlando, or vice versa. If you go to LA first and then you go to Orlando, it feels different because it's still HHN, but there's a definite different vibe and approach to the event, the scare zones rather, and the houses. Craig, what do you think about our topic?
You definitely hit it right on the button when it comes to different vibe, different scope, different feel about when it comes to HHN versus I mean when it comes to HHN LA versus HHN Orlando. um Both Michaela and John Murdy, they have different that I believe they have different viewpoints, different stylings, different, you know, different scopes, different different teams, and what they're both what them and their teams are like, both capable of. But I think it's on purpose is because, again, it's different coasts, different distinct styles, of different houses, which is, which by all accounts is, that's great, because in Orlando, I mean in LA, you've got I wouldn't say mostly IP, but for the most part, it's more IP heavy because obviously they're in the backdrop of LA. They're on the back lot of they're on the back lot of the Hollywood. So it's like it makes sense for it to be very IP heavy because that's the birthplace of the movies, and make movies like down the hill. And so, but which isn't like yeah, they have their originals, but like I said, they're more IP heavy because they're on the back lot of Hollywood and stuff like that. But um, in terms of Orlando, they're more like, I would say they have more like creative, and they have more creative freedom to where they could do five originals, five IPs, and they don't have to be all IP heavy because again they have that much creative freedom to and plus Orlando has a whole backstory. They have like they have like a whole deeper history to to go back on, and like half the originals that they do every year is based on like the continuation and lore of previous houses and events and stuff like that. And so that's what that's what lets them have that much creative freedom to do what they to do what they do in terms of the originals. And basically with IP, it's almost like Orlando and LA, they share the same, they share the same IP. They share the same IPs every year, besides like like one or a couple of them, that's LA exclusive. But that's pretty much what I think about that. um and it's a good thing because when you go to different coasts, when you go to different coasts and different parks, you don't want this, you don't want the same formula. You would think that hey, this is Hollywood will have distinct things towards them, and vice versa when it comes to Orlando. And that's just that maybe that's me, but that's why I end up that's what I end up looking for, in the long term, because you wouldn't think that uh you wouldn't think different parks would have exactly the same thing. You would look for like a different flavor. You would look you would look for a different flavor, a different feel, a different vibe. And that's just theme parks in general, whether it's Disneyland in California, Disney World in Florida, Universal Hollywood, Universal Orlando. Like you would think that you would think just right off the bat, just off the names alone, there would be something different. And that's just what I think about when it comes to HHN as well. There's nothing It's no different.
Nah, I totally agree. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed between these two is their attention to detail for one, and then also their overall approach to the event. I know that Murdy interacts very heavily with the fans on Twitter, and we see that. We see that all the time. And Murdy will update us all year long with his planning process. And he won't give us actual details, but he'll give us very bland details, but enough for you to speculate. Case in point, he made a tweet the other day. He's already writing one of the treatments for HHN 2027 in Hollywood. 26 hasn't even happened yet, and he is already cooking up shit for 27. And I'm not using this to say that Murdy doesn't listen to the fans, because I think that that would be completely false. But I think that Murdy thinks ahead a lot and is already thinking about what he's going to cook up the next time around. That the ideas never become saturated, they never become stagnant. So that's something that I really like about Murdy, and I like how he really like a house that is only 5 to 6 minutes long. The treatment for it was 135 to 200 pages worth of detailed, very specific information. And I just think that that's pretty cool, man. That it just shows how serious they are about these attractions. Now, what I love about Aiello is Aiello's going to listen to what we have to say. And he has said that he listens to what we have to say. Him and Laura and Charles during that panel, they all said, we see everything. We know what y'all want. We know what you all don't want. We know what houses you liked. We know what houses you didn't like. And we know exactly what you all were asking for, which is why this year is starting to come to fruition of what it was. We can't say that this is another Carnival of Carnage this year, but it is an enhanced version. You didn't get the Infernal Carnival of Nightmares from nowhere. You know what I'm saying? So what I really like about him is he does listen to the fans, and when he has an opportunity to talk about the event, he also shines a light on that. He shines a light on, oh, well, I saw this one tweet or this one comment that said XYZ. So here's how I'm going to expand on these three things to improve the event as a whole because this is something that people have been asking for. And so I think that that right there puts HHN Orlando in great hands. It won't die out anytime soon because they're always listening to what we have to say and trying to improve it. And I think that's why we ended up getting certain houses that came from a scare zone. You know what I'm saying? Major Suites was a scare zone. I think what was this? Was Slaughter Cinema a house or was that a zone at one point?
I think it was. I know the first Slaughter Cinema was definitely a house,
Right. Yeah.
but Slaughter Cinema it became its own entity from a scare zone.
Right. Like it became its own entity. Dead Man's Pier came from the scare zone. There's a lot of enhancements happening all the time. And I also love how they are able to use certain houses or certain rooms to cook on an idea that they may potentially want to use in the future for an entire house. But instead of doing the entire house, let's see how it's received first in here. That was something that I really liked about the Slaughter Cinema houses is that we can pack in, 9 or 10 different ideas and see how they're received. And then we could take that back to the drawing board and build what we got with hatching and chains. We got an entire house from that. So that's something that I really like about Aiello is just his delivery and his attention to what do the fans want. It's not always about what he may think is amazing in his mind. And obviously he always is going to get the final say, of course, but how can I, really push the envelope for the fans so that this can be for the fans, damn near by the fans. And that's
And
something that I really like.
I also love the fact that um, they love to build on the lore from different houses and stories, and like how new houses can just be built off lore from previous houses. Just like perfect example, Bugs Eaten Alive. What was the company called? BuzzCon. What
Buzz,
was what was uh what was one of the scare zones this past year? It dealt with BuzzCon. It dealt with the
oh yeah, mutation,
toxic 20s.
toxic 20.
Mutations Toxic 20s. And what that stem from? BuzzCon's Toxic Waste. What that stem from? Bugs Eating Alive. The story building is insane. And they do it at a consistent rate. They do it often. And that's what builds lore that you remember. What was in Dogs Let's Play Dead? A BuzzCon battery.
Yep, the batteries. Yep,
You see how people can just like you can just catch something that small of a detail, and it can just rewind your mind back to, oh, that's from BuzzCon, Buzz Eating Alive.
yep.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like a story within a story because you see the
Basically,
or you see Toxic 20s and things like that. Toxic 20s was a prequel to what Bugs Eaten Alive was. Toxic 20s
exactly.
showed us how we got to Bugs Eaten Alive. And people, I think that went over a lot of people's heads. It's like Toxic 20s is actually what happened before Bugs Eaten Alive. Like how cool is that? Like that when you think like that and when you not recycle but recirculate different ideas to tie them together and to push it, then you get stuff like that. I think that's why I was so lost on why Sinister and Surreal just didn't take off the way that I felt like it could have. I know they're new icons, but they just didn't tie them in enough. I feel like it might have been just a tad too early to kind of bring them into the lore, especially now like 35 is here, and unless they show up in these, remaining house announcements, or whatever, we don't know what's going to happen with Sinister and Surreal. But I do think that's a good idea that they cook. They just have to capitalize on it a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely think that they could have done a better job with Sinister and Surreal. And like you said, it was probably too early, but I honestly think that they didn't have anything else in the tank in terms of having an icon. They were just like, okay, let's think of an icon. They just couldn't think of an icon and like a better icon, in enough time. And so they just settled on that. And I don't want to use the word settle when it comes to HHN because one thing they don't do is that. But I feel like they just lost creative steam at that point, which is okay. We all have our duds. We all have our years where they don't hit the mark. There have been some, but I don't want to, again, I don't want to say they settled, but that wasn't their best foot forward in terms of an icon. But uh, I just think that they could have tied them better into the overall story, and like because honestly, every year HHN, every icon every year is tied together into the overall HHN story, but Sinister and Surreal just wasn't. And I think that really told everything, and it really showed when you actually went into that event in that way. Like if you thought of the event that way like I do, then you totally see where they fell short at. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't on purpose. It's just that they couldn't tie that together into the overall overarching story.
And I also think coming off of a year where Oddfellow was heavily tied into everything that was going on. And then they announced Sinister and Surreal, and it just didn't tie in the way that you thought it was because they were tied in
Yeah.
to different scare zones. It just wasn't that prevalent.
And,
Um,
and Oddfellow gave people a lot of expectations too.
exactly. It really set a higher bar. And then if you really think about it, Duality of Fear was a scare zone that was up, it that was Sinister and Surreal scare zone. Like they were tied into everything, but Duality of Fear was that zone. And unfortunately, there just wasn't much of a story told within that zone to really push it. But at the same time, where we were talking about the idea of who those icons are and their lore within the backstory of Halloween Horror Nights, I definitely don't think it's over, and I think that that can absolutely be redeemed. So, with that being said, I got to know your top three originals that Aiello cooked on, and your top three that Murdy cooked on, and we got to talk about. It. It can only be three. It can only be three, and they got to be originals. What are your top three?
For me, this is pretty easy. I gotta go for Aiello originals. I gotta go with Darkest Deal, Dead Man's Pier, and ooh, I gotta go with El Artista. I gotta go El Artista. It was hard. Like the third one was hard because it was either gonna
Big
be trip.
Surge. Shout
It
out
was
Big Surge.
shout out Big Surge. It was either gonna be the third one was either gonna be that or triplets. I was so torn. I was so torn, bro. Cause I'm like, you got El Artista, then you got triplets. I was that would be my fourth one if there was a top four.
It's hard.
It's definitely hard, but Murdy, I would definitely have to say uh the Monstro series, of course. Um, I would say Scarecrow, and I would say Holidays in Hell for sure.
Yeah.
That's all me.
Yeah. I gotta go for Aiello. I have to go Dead Man's Pier. I have to go Fiesta de Chupacabras. See what I'm saying? When you start thinking about it, it's more of
See,
them that
see what I'm saying, man?
exist. And then for my third, um, this is actually kind of hard because there are a lot of really cool houses that him and his team have cooked up. And I don't want to say something that's just so recent, but it is the truth. And that would probably be Gawkin for me. I I I think Gawkin makes that list. Love El Artista. I love El Artista. But I don't think that it triumphs. And I know because of the story and how Surge is going to be an icon, and he kind of already is, that story is not done. We're going to get a sequel at some point or in some sort of form. But Murdy cooked so hard with the Monstro series, just like you said, that it's kind of hard for me to put El Artista over that. So I say for Murdy, the Monstro series for sure. Death Valley, Dead Exposure, and honestly, all of his work that he's done with all those La Llorona houses that we've gotten over the years, those have all been very well done. But like you said, you got Scarecrow and you got Holidays in Hell and all these other houses. It really does make it hard, but those would be my three on the Murdy standpoint.
When it comes to these, when it comes to these originals from both coasts, it's literally a hard thing, especially in Orlando because again they have that much creative freedom to do all those originals. When you think about it, when you actually sit down and think about it, it's like, man, you don't really have a top three. It really turns into a top six. But
You got 12 of them on the list.
like literally, bro, like I was saying, it's hard for me to do a top three because all these originals have been so good. And you could say, like, now I do agree with you, in terms of Big Sirs, like the series could not be done. It could, be continuous because if you think about it, it did leave on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But um but if not El Artista, I would say triplets because triplets that's a banger for sure. Or Case Files Unearthed.
Ooh.
That one
See, and that's the hard part because
beautiful.
now we're going back to years further back, and then Wicked Growth comes into conversation. You see what I'm saying? Graveyard Day
Yeah.
to the table, like Icons Captured comes to the table. Like it's too.
See what I'm saying? It's too many originals. They're just so good. That just tells you.
Yeah, and see, this is why this list could go on forever and ever. But case in point, Murdy and Aiello know how to cook. Is basically what we're saying, and it's really cool to also hear their thoughts because their thoughts not only inspire the community, but they inspire us to even further our topics. Well, what things we could talk about? Because it's cool. We would love to really sit there and just pick their brain and see how they come up, with all these different things. Because you got to think they really sat there these ideas just don't come overnight. Some of them may, pop in your head off an instant, but these are ideas that have been drawn up, scrapped, redrawn, really, pushed through and talked through. And so we respect the head honchos, man. We really wanted to talk about those two for sure. And we appreciate y'all for listening to us this week, man. We know it's been a couple weeks, but we've been busy and just trying to get life together, get ready to get down for Spooky Empire, and we're glad we were able to put something together and get it out this week, man. It feels good to be back in the podcast studio talking to you guys, talking about HHN. So before we close it out, we want to give a special shout out to Fear and Beer again on the last episode. It was a blast. If you have been trying to find that video on YouTube, for some reason it got copyrighted. We have no idea why it was copyrighted, but it is not able to be viewed on YouTube, but it can be streamed on all of the streaming platforms. So Apple Podcast, Spotify, any of the other ones. What's that other one? Podbean. If you use that, whatever, it's out there. Go listen to it. Check it out. They have their trivia night coming up on the 20th. It will be 100 days until HHN when they have that. If you are fortunate enough to be in the Orlando area, unlike us on the 20th, definitely go out there. Check it out. You already know that's going to be a vibe. We would love to be there and check it out if we could. Uh, Definitely snag a Dead Man's Mike t-shirt. It always helps the platform. We got plenty of them sitting right here next to me right now, so definitely grab one. We'll get them shipped out to you. And with that being said, Craig, unless you have anything else, you got anything?
Like Nick said, support the pod, get that merch, get that merch, get that merch. We got some fire stuff on the way too.
Yeah.
So
New
you
stickers, all
know,
that stuff. It's on the way.
yep, be on the lookout. Again, if you're coming down for Spooky Empire, don't be afraid to talk to us. Um, shoot us shoot us some questions, shoot us some DMs. We're always here. Um, don't be afraid to come speak to us, have a conversation, have a drink or whatever. We'll be at Spooky Empire that whole weekend and last weekend in May. Uh,
Cannot wait, man.
we will be hitting a lot of horror cons across the country as well in the summertime because those are starting to cook up too. And we'll constantly be down in Orlando consistently, uh, pretty much up until HHN. So
Yeah. So with that being said, if we don't see you at Spooky Empire or any other time this summer down at the parks or anywhere else that you might find us, we will see y'all in the fog for sure. And be sure to stay tuned for the next episode. Appreciate you all for listening, and we will talk to you all soon.
peace out.